All right, so today we're going to be looking at VideoTagger Pro, which is essentially the successor to VideoTagger. And if you aren't familiar with either of these tools, what they can essentially do at the base is extract and generate metadata descriptions from videos, from your shoots, so like B-roll, anything, even interviews in VideoTagger Pro, and it can generate metadata using AI. So in the case of VideoTagger, the original, it uses the Gemini Flash API. It's the same thing for VideoTagger Pro, except that VideoTagger Pro also has a local vision model, which is called BLIP. BLIP 2 to be more specific, and it's made by OpenAI. So this can actually process, if running things locally is a big thing for you, well, and you have a powerful GPU, because actually that's a prerequisite. So it will actually crash if you don't have an adequate enough GPU. I'm using an NVIDIA RTX 3080. So, you might want something along those lines to do like anything that involves, AI processing, especially for video. But anyways, it's in here regardless, and we'll most likely add some guardrails in the future. For now, it's still in beta test, so we want to see which machines it can run on and which it can't. But regardless, Gemini API, the Gemini Flash API, from everything I've experienced so far, is still the best at describing your videos and getting some like nice rich metadata out of it. So anyways, that engine is basically the same in VideoTagger Pro, except that now we're going to look at all the things that VideoTagger Pro can do that VideoTagger cannot, and it will blow your mind. So let's actually go into the settings. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a different UI. There's a drag and drop area that was added. It's the same thing in the next version of VideoTagger, so those are going to be standard from now on. And the UI is just a little bit different because honestly, it's even simpler to use than VideoTagger. So you think, more complexity, more buttons. Not really. It's actually designed to save you even more time. But the one place you're going to want to actually, look into is the settings window. So as you can see, we have that open. And this is where, like, if anything's complicated, it's basically just this, but it's not that complicated because all you need to do is basically select what you need. So as you can see, one thing that VideoTagger Pro can do is that VideoTagger cannot is transcribe videos. So you might be telling yourself it's not like that revolutionary of a feature, right? I mean, it's using OpenAI's Whisper locally. So one thing is, you don't have to worry about internet speed. It's all gonna happen on your computer. But yeah, like most NLEs and, other video editing softwares can, basically subtitle or caption your videos. So what's the big thing with this? Well, nothing too special. I mean, it can do it. That's a cool thing to have on hand regardless, because not everyone has DaVinci Resolve Studio or, Premiere. So, this is another way to have access to that technology. But first things, you're going to want to set basically your formats. SRT is obviously standard for, video editing software. So you're going to want that for sure. VTT is for YouTube, and .text is just, .text if we want to look at it, because we're going to look at it in just a little bit. But another thing that it does, and this is something that other transcription softwares or plugins don't do, it's the ability to summarize your transcription. So that could be very useful if you're recording like business meetings or like podcasts, and you want to already have some stuff that you could use in your YouTube description or whatever, that kind of thing. Well, this can generate a full summary, bullet points, and keywords. So that's using an LLM. So we're gonna get into, the different LLMs you can use in just a little bit, but that's already something more. And the number one feature I think that VideoTagger Pro has is still based off the transcription, but based off the transcription, what the large language models can also do is analyze your transcription to do basically two things. One is to create the YouTube chapters. So if you have a podcast or an interview or whatever, and this doesn't have to be like the raw video, it could be the final edited product too that you import into here. But what it can do is it can generate the YouTube chapters for you in a .text file. So it'll analyze all the important, like the areas of relevance, I guess, and it'll make chapters for you. So already that's a super huge time saver. So that's available. So we're going to export one of those. And the other thing it can do with the transcription is export what we call timelines. So this is going to be, you can see you have the different major video editing softwares here and their associated file types. So what it's going to do essentially is export a timeline with markers based on the same thing as the YouTube chapter. So it's going to find the points of interest. It's going to create markers. And if you're using speaker diarization, which is essentially detecting multiple speakers, you can also color code it by speaker. So that could be pretty damn useful for some people, especially video editors, right? If you want to find like the important stuff right away, where you're going to make your shorts or where you're going to make your excerpts, that kind of stuff, super useful. So that's it. So it's not just transcription. This is like next level organization in regards to video editing pipelines. So that's pretty much all there is to that. And then we have the same video metadata export options as VideoTagger, which is, you know, all the major editing softwares, IPTC standard for, you know, licensing and all of that good stuff. And of course, we copy the original video files from wherever, the SD card, backup drive, into the new destination, which we need to set, which is the output folder where everything's going to be organized. And I'm going to show you how that works. Now, last thing we need to look at is the different API keys you're going to want to save if you're, you know, you want to work with them. I personally work with Gemini because one, it's free, and two, even if you wanted to use the paid version for more quota, which you would need if you wanted to batch process like hundreds of videos at a time, well, you have that, but you also have access to OpenAI's API, Anthropic, which is Claude, Mistral, and DeepSeek. Even Hugging Face, but honestly, you don't even really need that one for now. It's just for like future features that I might be adding. But yeah, so you can choose the LLM that you prefer to work with. So that's already really cool. We're gonna just save those settings. So yeah, so right over here in the main UI, you can see you can actually select different LLMs. So that's something that was not possible in VideoTagger. So this is just, you know, to add, you know, depending if you're using a different one and you want to work with it, well, now you can. Transcription model, we only have local whisper for now, which is, you know, the OpenAI's whisper. And you see you have the ability to detect multiple speakers or not. That's a different script. So if you don't need it, you don't need it. But what it'll do in the transcriptions, it'll put like speaker 1, speaker 2, and it'll distinguish, you know, between who's talking, which in a lot of cases could be pretty useful. So that's that. And then lastly, we have the vision model. Like I said, Gemini is the go-to for me personally, but you have BLIP 2 if you want to do some local processing and, you know, for some reason, maybe your enterprise doesn't want to, you know, connect to the internet, but although you would be doing so with the LLM part. So we might even integrate a local version of Mistral at some point if you want to be completely offline, but that's going to be coming up in future versions, most likely. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my output folder, because now we're actually going to process an example video. So I have a folder here set up for that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the file that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little false take. So it's literally like a couple of seconds from an interview I shot with a art studio artist, an artist that has an art studio. And yeah, so it's going to transcribe. You're going to see a little bit of a transcription. And if you're importing multiple files, I will just say this. What it does is it doesn't just import the files. It extracts metadata right off the bat, like, you know, like the important stuff that you might need to add, like that's already in the video, basically what I'm saying. But it also detects, and this is important because you can see you have checkboxes here. So this means it's going to run through all three, the LLM, the transcription, and the vision models. But let's say like you import just an audio file, which you can, it'll detect that and it'll disable vision by default. You can always do it yourself, but it just detects the file types. That way it knows, it already gives you like a pretty good. The other thing is, let's say you import a video file with audio, it'll automatically enable transcription. But let's say you have some B-roll and there is no dialogue in there, it'll still do it, but in that case, you might want to just disable it, right? So it's not perfect in that sense, but it gives you a pretty good head start. So in this case, there's dialogue, there's obviously it's a video, so we want to describe the video, and the LLM stuff is essential for getting any valuable context and, you know, other assets out of these extractions. and generations. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit start to start the, the processing. So that should take a moment. So you can see it's clearly working in the background and the folder is being filled up. Afterwards, another thing that I added, which is also available in the next version of VideoTagger, is a log. So you can actually view the logs if ever there's any issues or whatever. So you can see what happened, you know. So you can troubleshoot if there are issues, but so far so good. You gotta let it do its thing there, obviously, especially if it's running local stuff like transcription. There you go. Depending on your computer, it might be instantaneous or it might take a while. But if we look at the logs, you can clearly see everything that happened. So you can always check that stuff out. So actually you could even see, you know, kind of like the thing that it generated, AI gave it back, the large language model. So anyways, that's pretty cool. So now we're gonna look at the actual files. So as you can see, this is the output folder we set. And we get a very nicely organized batch of assets. So we have the timelines per video. So we only did one this time, but like you see it's named the same thing as the video file. So you know, it's associated to that. So you'll have one per video file for timelines. So we have the chapters for YouTube. So you see, this would be like, you could replace these with titles there. Now it's just kind of like markers for transcription, which anyways, it had, like you saw, that was like literally the whole video. So obviously not useful in this context, but okay, so here are the transcripts. So now we have a bunch of stuff. So we have, this is kind of like the master file. So we have the keywords, the bullet points, and the summary in here. So there's that. For the actual transcription, we have keyword, summary, bullet, and we should have, there we go. So this is the transcription. See where it says speaker. If there was multiple speakers, it would say speaker 1, speaker 2, but literally this was the whole video. So it's not broken. This, like, the video was like literally a couple of seconds. So that's that. Other than that, what else did I export? We exported the IPTC, which is a JSON thing. So that I can open it in Visual Studio Code, but it wouldn't really look like much. So let's just import the DaVinci, what you could import into basically your video editing software. So it imports all the metadata with it. So you can see you have the file name to attach to, the description, the keywords, and for DaVinci, that's all you really need. So that's pretty much all there is to it. So very powerful piece of software. It took a while to make. And like I said, right now it's in beta testing mode. By the time you see this video, it might be done. So in the description box, you'll actually have a link to purchase it. But for the time being, if you're seeing this when it came out, in the description box, there's actually a link to sign up to become a beta tester. And what this gives you access to is VideoTagger Pro license, which is going to be valid even after the beta test is over. And this is going to be selling for $99. So, you know, if you get in early, you actually get it for free. But if it's not in beta anymore, and you have questions or concerns, what you can do is you can actually comment in the YouTube video for, you know, if you have any questions. And you can also send us an email and we'll basically answer any questions that you have in regard to VideoTagger Pro. But if you're just willing to just get, you know, started and, you know, start experiencing what this is like, you know, generating metadata with AI in batch, you can try VideoTagger, which is just $10. So that's like the best entryway into this ecosystem. But if you're a professional, VideoTagger Pro is definitely going to save you hours in editing and supercharge your post-production pipeline, no doubt about it. So I hope that you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.